Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We are into a new unit now. You either will be taking the unit test on cells tomorrow, or you've already taken it, depending on what day you're watching this. But the next unit we're going to get into is genetics, and we're going to break it up into two different parts. First part's going to be on DNA. The second part is going to be on heredity, so how you actually get your traits from your parents, and how traits are passed down through different generations. So first part we're going to look at is DNA. We need to know how DNA is made and what its function is. So today the video is DNA, structure, and function. Alright, so first off, DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Alright, and this is the genetic material that determines all of your inherited characteristics. So any physical trait that you can see, you probably got from your parents, and those came through their genes, which have been passed on from generation to generation. DNA is a super important molecule. It is found in the nucleus. All right, you learned about that when we did mitosis and going through the organelles in the cell unit. You know the DNA is found in the nucleus. So DNA has to be able to give instructions for building and maintaining all of your cells. Okay, and DNA is found in every single cell in your body, minus a couple. And it's a huge molecule. All right, if you were to take, I want to say it's 8 New York City phone books with how small print is in a phone book, and your code for DNA would fill the entire thing. It's a huge molecule. If you're actually able to take it out of each of your cells and stretch it out as far as it could go, it would be about 6 feet long. So you have DNA about 6 feet long packed into every single one of your cells in your body. So you have a ton of DNA in your body, and you guys will get a chance to see that next week. So DNA, in 1953, two guys named James Watson and Francis Crick, they were given credit for discovering that DNA had a twisted ladder shape, so they discovered its structure, and we call that twisted ladder shape a double helix. Okay, so if you don't know what a twisted ladder looks like, just looks like this, and then you have your rungs going through it. So this is kind of what DNA looks like. There was a picture on the other deal and on the other page, and this is actually the model that they created. So this was them years after. They were actually relatively young. I want to say in the early 30s or 40s when they discovered the structure. Now they had a lot of help. The people that helped them actually didn't get credit for it. Rosalind Franklin, she was another big player in discovering the structure. They actually took some images that she had taken of DNA and kind of put the pieces together. So if it wasn't for her work, they never would have really figured it out, at least not as quickly as they did. Alright, so DNA is made up of smaller blocks. Okay, every one of these molecules are made up of smaller things. So a building block of DNA is called a nucleotide. Okay, that's one of your important vocabulary words. Each nucleotide is made up of 3 things. It's made up of a phosphate, a sugar, the sugar in DNA is deoxyribose, and one of 4 nitrogen bases. So the 4 nitrogen bases are right down here. Alright, they're adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine. Now they don't look like this, but we represent them as these shapes because specific bases only pair with one other base. Alright, so we'll take a look and see what the structures are made up of. Okay, so these are your 4 bases, and it's also got deoxyribose and a phosphate, which makes up a nucleotide. So one nucleotide would actually look like, this would be your phosphate, you would have your sugar attached to it, and then you would have your base here. Okay, and this would be like the left side of the DNA strand, and then you would have another one over on this side. So I'll show you a structure, and we'll break it down a little bit more. In terms of the pairing, Erwin Schargraf, he found that in a DNA molecule that the amount of adenine equals the amount of thymine, and the amount of guanine equals the amount of cytosine. So what he did was he took weights and he measured how much each thing weighed, and he found that when doing the weights, the adenine always equaled the thymine, and the guanine equaled the cytosine. So Watson and Crick concluded that adenine is always going to pair with thymine and guanine is always going to pair with cytosine. So these two bases will always match together, okay, and then you would have your phosphate and your sugar attached on this side. You would also have a phosphate and a sugar attached here, okay, and then same on this one. Okay, so this is kind of what the molecular structure of DNA is going to look like. Alright, so an easy way to remember the base pairs, you have your straight line letters, A and T, that always go together, and then your curved letters will always go together. So if there's an A, it's going to match with T. If there's a T, it'll match with A. If there's a G, it'll match with C. If there's a C, it'll match with G. Alright, so finally, in this last slide, you'll see that in DNA, the sugar and phosphates make up the sides of the ladder. Okay, so they alternate, sugar and phosphate. And the paired bases make up the rungs. So some important things to remember is that hydrogen bonds hold the bases together in the middle. This is important because hydrogen bonds are really weak. Alright, they're the weakest type of bond. So we know that it's easy to break, and we'll talk about why your DNA would have to break and separate later on in this unit. But you can still see that A always goes with T, G always goes with C, all the way down. So we labeled that you have your base pair. Okay, A to T is also a base pair. You have a single nitrogen base, and then all three put together, the sugar, the phosphate, and the base, equal a nucleotide. Alright, so this is the basic structure of DNA. The function is just to maintain and build cells and proteins. And yeah, we'll get into this in more detail. You guys will make your own model when you get to class. You'll actually do a DNA extraction where you'll pull DNA out of different foods. So yeah, you guys will design your experiment for that, and we'll do that on Monday. So I'll talk to you about that on Thursday, so you can start to get your supplies over the weekend. Alright, so like I said, we're starting the new unit, genetics, on Thursday. This is the first part, DNA, so we will make sure we go through this in more detail, but I just wanted to give you an overview before you got to class. Alright, so hope you did well on your quiz, or on your unit test. If you haven't taken it yet, make sure you look over the study guide I gave you in class. Alright, I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye.